Good evening, everybody. My name's Kerry Duval. I am the Warrior Queen. Welcome to another episode of An Audience with a Queen. I've got an absolutely amazing guest waiting backstage called Mary. We're going to talk about being an SEN parent and how it affects your mental health. See you in a minute. Welcome to Warrior TV.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks. Keeping busy. I've been a really busy day. I'm a little bit tired tonight, but I've had a brew. Should be all right.
Good for you.
Yeah. So obviously, I touched in the intro about talking about how being a parent of children with SEN affects your mental health. And we were talking a bit before the show about how crazy lifestyles is with kids with special needs. Obviously, both our kids have got autism. Am I right?
Yes, ma'am. Actually, I have 3 as well as myself. So, Yep.
Yeah. No, well, obviously, both my 2 children have got them. Obviously, is it all 3 of yours have got autism?
Yes, ma'am. We're on the milder end. Yep.
Yeah. So obviously with the UK and America, we don't have a mild or severe. It is just they're on the spectrum. So either high functioning or low functioning. So can you quickly explain the difference what mild and severe would be in America?
Mild would be kind of like myself, kind of social development issues, things that can be adapted and changed over time and progress. And be able to function in a workplace, in an environment that tails to their needs and stuff. The more severe end is nonverbal, aggressive, maybe situations where communication is an issue and the things are just hard for them to be able to participate in anything as far as social structure, as far as that goes. So for us, it looks a lot different. Having kids on a mild end, obviously it's easier for me to communicate with that, but I continue to learn about the more severe end and just learning how to connect with that end of it. The severity sometimes overwhelms me because that's part of that. You don't understand it because it's not a part of your world. So I think education on that end for me has been a big thing.
Yeah, I think education about autism is a massive thing, and not just obviously in the UK and the US. I think it's a global thing. We need to create more awareness and more acceptance of people with autism.
Yes, definitely. Everybody is aware, let's say, but I think the biggest thing now is acceptance. And I went through that with workplace situations and stuff. So acceptance is your huge word over here because now autism is probably more prevalent now than it's ever been. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people think that people with autism, that's the next evolutionary jump. So that's what in the future we're all going to be like. Well, everyone's going to have autism in the future. What's your opinion on that?
I think because of the awareness, autism is being diagnosed more frequently. And so in that case, if you're aware of it now how do you accept me or how do we accept you? I think we're in that stage now where it needs to be acceptance. And, I'm fortunate my two older boys are very well accepted, but they still need people that understand them around them so that they have that routine and reassurance they're still doing well. I think people think because we can assimilate easily that everything's easy for us. And in all reality, it's not easy. It's a continual work in progress.
Yeah, it is. And obviously touching on that continuing work in progress, it is the parents that take a lot of the hard work for the children, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's the parents and even the siblings. They take a lot of that on themselves too. And getting into the parents basically diving lifelong into it with their kids. They forget about what they need too, and they not only are you forming a routine for your kids, you need to form a healthy routine for yourselves.
Yeah, you do. So obviously, being a parent of 2 children and with you 3 children with autism, it can affect your mental health. And we were touching a little bit on how crazy our lifestyles are with appointments here, there, and everywhere, and just feeling stressed out on a day-to-day basis because their needs are so different from a child that doesn't have autism. So, for example, next week, my son is going to be starting a temporary school for the sake of 6 weeks, getting ready for high school in September. He's going to be going to an autism unit. Mm-hmm. And in that same week, I've got 2 appointments with my daughter as well. So I've got to sort of split myself in 2 and be in 2 different places at the same time. And it's going to be a hectic one. It's a good thing that my partner, their dad, is in our lives, because otherwise I just wouldn't be able to split myself into.
Right.
It's going to be a hectic week. And then that on top of everything else that mums and dads have to do on a day-to-day basis. How do you find being a parent of autism?
I think the biggest thing, my sons are older. And so as they progressed and stuff, I think you have to learn to take each kid in their appointment one step at a time, and you have to create a lifestyle where you make the time for them, and then when you have your appointments, you just, I think the biggest thing I've learned is you need to learn to breathe and realize that you have to prioritize what's more important. Is it more important that I go home and write an email, or is it more important for me to take the extra time with my son that needs to go and maybe walk through the park, which in all reality serves 2 purposes for both of you. The biggest thing is you prioritize them. And of course, as parents, we're going to prioritize our kids first and put our needs last, which is the society normal. And sometimes having watched my kids and being able to understand them at a different level, I think we as parents know what they can handle, and so you allow them to do that. But as parents, everything is always rush. And in this world now, we're all in rush. And so I think the biggest thing for us is prioritizing. Okay, John has an appointment today, and Wyatt has to be at work. So what's the last thing I want to do is I don't just sandwich something in between there. I think the biggest thing is I have a big whiteboard that behind me that we make sure we prioritize each day to make sure everybody's needs are met. And you also have to be able to shift your focus if something happens, or if an appointment goes longer. How is so-and-so going to get to work, or this or that? I think a lot of us forget to prioritize ourselves in there too. So,
yeah, definitely. I think the biggest bit of advice I can give to any parent or with a child with SEN needs, be it autism, ADHD, or whatever, is always make sure that you take some time for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So with me, it's nighttime when the kids are in bed. It's turn technology off, watch a bit of television, just chill out and try and clear my head, wind down before I go to bed myself. Yeah, I've got to do that to keep myself sane.
Yeah, as a person that retired a little over a year ago from working in retail, you forget to prioritize yourself. for 20 plus years, I forgot to prioritize myself. I always felt guilty if I bought something for myself, but in all reality, now that we've gotten past the part of me working in retail and my husband works the night shift, how do I prioritize my day since he comes home at 8 o'clock in the morning? Okay, so I give him the first 3 hours of my day, whether we go have breakfast or we just have a cup of coffee, or I just let him vent about his evening. Again, for us, it's prioritizing, but not forgetting to prioritize ourselves in there too, because if you don't, it's never good.
Yeah, you know what? It's weird that you came up with that, because earlier today I was on the phone to a friend, and she was saying about she'd bought herself a new hairdryer that had come in the set with a new pair of hair straighteners, and she'd obviously spent this money to treat herself a little bit. She deserved it, and this is what I said to her: you deserve it because of everything you do for the kids and obviously her partner. And the mum guilt set in that she felt like she shouldn't have spent that money. She shouldn't have spent that much on a nice set for herself. So that's another thing that comes in, is mum guilt. I don't think it's just mum guilt, because I think it can affect dads as well. You feel so rubbish that you treat yourself. Like yesterday when I was out and about getting a few bits and everything like that, I treated myself to a new purse. It was only £3. Just a small little purse to put my money in and put my bank card in so I don't lose them. I feel so rubbish for treating myself for that £3, but I know that I needed that purse because my one was getting a bit tatty.
Yep. And that's another thing too, Carrie, is you do your wants and needs.
Yeah.
Oh, my kid wants this, but he needs a new pair of shoes, and so it's a refocusing. Hey dude, I know you would love to have a pencil box for your pencils, but you need a new pair of shoes. And then he's like, you know what? Hey, score! I get a new pair of shoes, and I get to show everybody. So I think it's one of those. You do a wants and needs, and you do the same thing with doing your IEPs and stuff with your kids on the spectrum.
Yeah.
Okay, we know he needs this. He needs this. But for a bonus, if he wants this, if he does this, then let's do this. It's a wants and needs, and you could spend all your life doing wants and needs. If I'd have done that a long time ago, I'd have been a millionaire by now.
I don't think we're on the track to being millionaires anytime soon, but
you know what? Our hearts are of gold, so therefore that makes us a millionaire. So that's the way I look at that.
Yeah. We've got to look at it that way, haven't we? I mean, we've got a roof over our head. We have access to food and water, and we're able to come on the internet and talk to wonderful people around the world. I feel like a millionaire every single day because I've got access to all those things.
Yep.
Yeah,
but you look at your neighbor that doesn't have as much, and you're sitting there going, I don't have nothing. Or the homeless people that stand on our corners over here, you sit there and you go, you do what you can, and you come home and you're very thankful for what you have, and I will always say I don't have a lot, but I have a lot more than others, and that's where I take my heart, and that's what I'm developing a situation here where I'm looking at doing something with veterans and autism in the same arena. And so, it's one of those where it's like, just be blessed and be thankful and grateful for what you have and where you are today.
Yeah. I'm going to go back a little bit, touching on IEPs, because obviously in the UK, we've got IEPs, and then we have something called an EHCP, which is Education Healthcare Plan. So that's sorts of like, it puts into detail what the child needs support-wise, what steps they can put in place when they go into crisis, and then rewards for maybe like, if you do this, this, and this, that's going to be your reward at the end of it. And then maybe any like little bits. So my son had like a toolbox of fidget toys. So when he was going into crisis, his one-to-one support teacher brought this toolbox in, and he was allowed to have a fidget toy in the classroom, and that helped him just to refocus on the work, sort of thing. So how does IEPs work in America?
Here it's IEPs and what they call a 504c3 plan, which is the medical end, like you were talking about in England. My son's, I'm just going to go with my son. His last IEP was actually what they call a transition IEP, because he's transitioned into after high school program, and so his needs were, how do we get him to be employed? So the biggest thing for him was learning life skills, learning how to be productive, learning how to stay productive, how to stay on task, how to stay on routine. And then at the end of each week, their reward was being able to have dinner with the people that they actually served in one of the university campuses dining halls. So, I think for my son, the biggest thing is the communication through the IEP and making sure that the IEP developers, as well as myself, are following up with that. And each week there was an email sent home, and so they're able to do that. John has zebras, so he's always talking about zebras. I'm pretty sure everybody knows we have 6 zebras, and they all live in a case. So, being able to allow him to expound on his stuffed animal collection was a benefit for him. Allowing him to tell others about his nephew Bryson was another one, because he's a baby fanatic. John's 19, so he loves his nephew, and so those folks that have worked with him know that he needs that time to be able to talk about his family, his brothers, his mom, his dad. And he's become a kind of a social butterfly, which is stark contrast to 18 years ago when he barely even spoke 5 words. So I like the rewards. It can be at the end of the week, but in the beginning, it was literally every hour that he had to have something. Here we had what they call a room where he would be able to go in and decompress because he was overwhelmed. And so he had an opportunity to just go be himself, because as well as I do, the pressure on the students, just, they're going to go all day, and then they're going to come home and either have a meltdown or just be totally deleted from the day, overwhelmed and just done. So he was able to have a room where he can just decompress and refocus and start on task again. So.
Yeah. I think, because looking back at when my son was in his mainstream school, they'd take him into the school gym. So obviously it was a big room, and he was allowed to run around, burn off some energy and anything like that, so he could allow himself to calm down before going back into the classroom. And that was one of the strategies that was in his EHCP. So yeah, I think that's similar to your compression room, was it?
Yeah, there's another name. I'll probably think of it a little later, but yeah. It's a sensory room. So they had different stuff. It may have had fidget toys or a softball, and like he could go in the gym. He's a good basketball player. He's really good at basketball. So they had options for him to be able to take time away from his other classmates. So.
Yeah. So you touched on that when your son was younger, he struggled with his speech. So how did you obviously support him through that, like getting him into school sort of thing?
Well, I'm kind of glad you asked that, because my youngest son was actually diagnosed at 1 month old.
Wow.
And so John has actually been in some form of school since he was 8 months old. And so for him to verbalize in the beginning, if he wanted a drink of water, he'd bring us his cup. If he was hungry, he'd stand with the fridge door open. I'm like, dude, you can't stand with the fridge door, Or if he had to go to the bathroom, he'd go in there and he'd just stand. A lot of it was basically kind of like a body language as a form to sign language and stuff. And then after we got him into his 8 months of of working with in-home therapy, he started to develop words. But he would watch kids shows on like Daniel Tiger, stuff like that. His favorites, Let's Go Luna and stuff. And so at the bottom of the screen would be the words. And so we would take a few of the words that he had seen and then start working with him with that. We also would I actually took Uno cards and a deck of playing cards, taught him letters and numbers. And then the Uno cards helped with colors and different stuff. And so, when you don't know how to necessarily have him communicate with you verbally, we started using cards like that and sight cards and stuff like that. But he learned his colors literally off a deck of cards and some Uno cards. And people were like, I never even thought that. Well, anybody that plays cards, you got a deck of cards. And if you play Uno, you play Uno all the time. In our family, you did. And so that's where we base, you start with that foundation and you just try to expand on that. And if he's not ready to go to the next level, you just keep repeating until he's like, oh, wait, there's purple or there's orange, So yeah, I kept it as simple as possible because obviously I'm a simple person. But so you start from the ground up, and eventually you started getting words. And I couldn't take him shopping by myself for the first 3 years because he would just scream because of the sensory issues with the hearing part of it, and he wouldn't keep headphones on his head and this and that. So, it's one of those where you learn to navigate what's best for your family.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting that you used Uno cards because our son showed an interest in numbers and he could only do 1 to 10. So obviously when he started school, the school had a snakes and ladders grid in the playground. And my partner stood there with him every single day, counting the numbers and then starting to do into times tables with him. And he could do the 2 times table right up to 12 times tables at age 5. He got it that quick. And I think from that, his interest in numbers has gone beyond me and his dad, Adam. He's now doing GCSE level, which is like the top end of high school level maths. Stuff that I only spent, about a year doing myself. He'll come to me with trigonometry and it's like, mate, I don't know anything about trigonometry. That was beyond me. It's like alien language to me.
Yeah, you're talking to a person that pretty much went to the level of basic math because my brain just didn't function with that. My brain was I was the athletic type. I was a runner. I used to run with my dad. We'd run 15 miles 3 times a week, and do different stuff with that. I was at the athletic end of it. John is more of a colorer, and he has an imagination. My oldest son actually played college football, and so that was fun to watch. And then my middle son is an artist, and so he would draw. And now, obviously, he's more of a gamer now that he can afford that himself, that he works. And so I think each person is unique on their own levels that they learn. But when you say math, I run the other direction. And I don't know about you, but I haven't used algebra once in 55 years. So
I haven't. No, I actually seen my old maths teacher in a supermarket and he said hiya to me and I'm like, after stuff you taught me in school, I've not used once. And all this, you're not going to have a calculator on you all the time. Guess what? You're a liar because I've got my phone and it's got a calculator on it.
Nice.
Yeah. On the first day of maths, I had him 2 years in a row. On the first day, it was maths is priceless. No, it's bloody not. No. That's just my opinion, of course. I don't like maths, but I've got a son that is a human calculator.
Yeah, my middle son's really good with numbers, and my oldest son, obviously, he's an insurance person, and he's really good with numbers. But my youngest son and I just kind of sit there and go, whatever.
Yeah.
And my husband's really good because he went to college and he knows a lot of that stuff. And that's cool because being a mechanic, you have to understand that stuff. And so when he explains to me, he draws it out because he's like, I know you're not going to understand this to this to this to this.
Yeah.
No. So yes, I'm a very visual person. And so yeah, my youngest son and I are like, yeah, we're out. This isn't a discussion for us.
Yeah. No, my youngest child, Tegan, she's very, I would say creative. She's got a really good imagination. Her drawing skills are coming. I think she's going to go down the creative side. I think if she practices her drawing a bit more, it'll get better. But obviously, as she gets older, it'll get better anyway.
Yeah.
So I do think maybe she can go down there. I mean, I'd like to think that one day with the fact that she's creative and Lucas is really good at putting things together and with numbers, she could design a house and Lucas could build it.
Yeah. Well, that is one thing my husband and I have always talked about. We could probably build the house, and I told him, I said, that's cool, but I'm done. I don't do electrical. I'm out. Dude, I want my hair left on my head. I'm not doing your electrical. But see, he can do that. I can drywall. He can't. So it's just different things that I've learned throughout life. And in all reality, we giggle. We could probably build our son a playhouse out back, and people would be like, "You need to have footings under there," and all this. But yeah, I think it's just unique in our structure with my three boys and myself and my husband that, in all reality, although we're different, we're still yet the same. So.
Yeah. So obviously going through all these struggles with your son and helping your son with Uno cards and playing cards and learning things, everything like that, how did it affect you as a person?
I think me as a person, and this is something that I've literally just learned in the last 5 years, honestly, me as a person, instead of always thinking, I have to do something, I have to teach him, you know what, Carrie, just take a step back and watch him. He probably already knows it. Same way with all three of my boys, even my husband. You know what? Take a step back and watch them. Do you really always have to be the teacher? I mean, my kids were teaching me at 3 and 4 years old because it's like you need to take your hands off and take a step back. I understand if they're in crisis mode, yeah, go do what you need to do. But on a normal day, take a step back and just watch them. In all reality, they already know it. They just don't realize it. For me, as a parent and a presenter, the things that I always watch are tone of voice, facial expressions, and body language. And they've taught me all of that. All of that. If I talk to the kids the way I'm talking to you right now, I get a better response than if I'm yelling at them. Yeah. Yelling turns on that defense mode and that meltdown mode, like, I'm done. And see, when we get to that point, my son knows to walk away and go to the room. All my boys know to walk away and go to their room or to outside. I think we being a parent is push back and watch them. I even watch adults that I know you have a guest or co-host on here, Andrea. I stand and watch this woman and I'm like, I learned so much if you just keep your lips shut for 5 minutes. Listen to learn instead of always having to be the hands-on teacher.
Yeah. Yeah, Andrea is Adam's co-host on a Thursday evenings. Tomorrow's show's not going ahead because Adam's having a few days off. It's mine and his 1 year anniversary tomorrow.
Nice.
So we're gonna spend the day and celebrate a little bit. We'll be staying in. Adam's going to cook us a nice meal.
There you go. Yeah, we've been married 29 years here. We just passed our 29th year. And, the last 5 years have been the most fruitful in learning. My husband's my biggest support. Always wants to see me do well and has allowed me to be able to do things like this with you and be able to be more hands-on with the stuff I want to do, that I'm passionate about. So yeah, 29 years, 30 years together. And it's like,
wow. No, well, me and Adam have been together 13 and a half years, but married for 1 year tomorrow.
Yeah.
So
Congratulations.
Thank you. And congratulations to you on 29 years, sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So away from autism and being an autism mum, who is Mary?
Who is Mary? Author, veteran, CEO, friend, compassionate, advocate, loving, kind, humble. I lead with humble leadership. It's one thing I've learned. I'm not going to be the person to say I told you so. That's not who I am. I'm the type of person I'd rather walk side by side with you and get you to where you need to go, as a person to just point. They pointed to me for 22 years at Walmart. I don't need you to point me in a direction. I just need you to show me what you need and let me do my job. I'm not like that. I walk side by side and I'll get you from point A to point B. I have some amazing mentors that work with autistic people. I have a gentleman that's an amazing mentor that I watched play college basketball. I have mentors. I am a mentor. And I guess my biggest thing for me is, what you see right here is what you get, other than maybe a hat. If I'm wearing a hat, it's a hat day. But, a kind, compassionate, caring person. And, if you reach out to me, I make every effort to get you from point A to B. Living in Nebraska, it's kind of like an antenna to both coasts, East Coast to West Coast, and even my neighbors to, in Missouri and stuff. So I guess you could call me a humble antenna if you want to work with that. I think my biggest thing is my diversity and inclusion. Some days I feel led to just sit where I'm at. But when I work with people like yourself and Andrea and just different communities, I have a gentleman that's Chinese that just reached out to me. I think you have to put you in a position where most autistics see black and white, where Mary sits in the middle and can see both sides, which is really uncommon for an autistic person. But to be able to agree to disagree and still be able to work together and still have cohesive leadership.
So you touched on being an author. So tell us a little bit about that. You've got 2 books, is it?
Yeah, I actually have both. Well, maybe I don't have them both here. This child of mine, I should just really. He rearranges my office as many times as I try to find it. Yes, I have 2 books. Actually, here they are. I have my first book is From the Inside Out, and that's actually my first book that talks about being autistic and working through Walmart and how I went and made my goal to become a hourly supervisor and to be able to put my humble leadership to work. And then this one here is a strategy guide that I created off the book. And so both those can be found on Amazon. The book title is From the Inside Out. It kind of goes through how I started with Walmart, eye contact, different stuff like that. And then how I in that book, I also have a chapter on where I lost my parents and being able to rebound from there and be able to share with others about my mom and dad. That took probably about 5 months before I could get over it before. And I don't mind being emotional. That, emotions is a part of what I do. So these 2 books, and then I also co-authored a couple with my publisher and editor. And so, yeah, my books are out there. I also have stuff with different interviews that I've done. So my book From the Inside Out, all of them are on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. on their online website. So if you just search Mary Hahn, all 4 of my books will come up. So yeah, it was fun because I had to laugh, Carrie, because I have an amazing editor, right? So I sent everything. I told her, I messaged her as soon as I sent it. I messaged her. I said, I pray for you because I'm the queen of run-on sentences. I didn't know what a comma was, didn't know what a period was, an exclamation point. And so needless to say, when she sent back my first edits, all the edits were in red print. You talk about a trigger from high school. I was like, oh my goodness. So yeah, my editor was great. And so I messaged her and I said, I don't even want to edit this now. She's like, why not? I said, you used red letters. I said, you talk about triggering me. So it took me a couple of days to accept the edits or do the edits she wanted. So yeah, I love my publisher and editor. Both of them are from Pennsylvania. And the reason I work with Grace and Hope Consulting LLC is because both that group gives back to their communities. So yeah.
Good. So what made you write your first book?
Pandemic. I was off work for 8 weeks being a veteran. I had a problem with the whole situation with the mask. So I just took all my sick time and I was like, okay, what am I going to do for 6 weeks? And so I just started writing stuff down. Next thing I know, they're like, just send it to us. Oh, okay. So it was one of those where it's like, I had plenty of time, so I might as well do something creative. And so here we are almost 3 years later from that book, I believe 2 years, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And then the following year on my birthday is when the strategy guide came out. So just putting thoughts to paper. And it's like, I have a lot of folks that have kids that are coming into that section of their lives. And so I'm kind of working backwards now. I'm working on something from when the boys were babies. And then I also have notes about being autistic and working with veterans with autism and stuff.
Yeah. You want to tell us a little bit about that? So working with veterans and autism.
Well, okay, if you make an X, I literally fall in that little cross in the middle. Is something I actually have brought up to my group at the VA. I spoke with Ty on how we can adjust that. A lot of it's forward thinking on how to get when military families transfer and they find out they have autistic kids, how to forward think that into the bases and stuff within the United States and stuff, and trying to cut through some of the red tape before it gets there, and being able to assist them in a school and insurance and all that red tape that you and I have gone through with our autistic kids alone, let alone trying to get through the military red tape to get from point A to point B. And so I think what it's going to look like is, it's in the process of looking at how military and autism overlap with the same needs as far as the depression, the mental health issues, the anxiety, the PTSD, and how a group of people can get together and support not only the autistics but the veterans, and maybe kind of like a foreseeing or forward thinking a situation like where retirement homes bring in younger kids to color with the adults, maybe have veterans that have autistic family members or whatever, and the autism community overlap together in stuff that they can do together, and probably see more between what they have to offer at how much more they are alike as opposed to different. And in all reality, being a veteran and being autistic, there is a lot of similarities as opposed to differences. So that's something that's kind of in the works with my publisher. So we're working on a Zoom meeting to kind of differentiate how to work that out. And so yeah, it's something that is very near and dear to my heart because it combines both my worlds as well as my personal family into that. And yeah, I've got probably 1,000 pages of paperwork on that already written down. It's just a matter of making sure it's a little more organized than the last time I did it. So it's basically intersecting two communities in a common avenue. So
yeah, you know what? And talking about how veterans and autism come together, I think that's a whole other episode with you.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to invite you back just to talk about that.
Yeah. Well, let me get a little further down the line, and I'll definitely make sure I hit you up on that. Like I said, I'm just trying to run this through, and with my publisher, what's really cool about her, she's also a trauma specialist, so it will help me kind of divulge some of the other stuff that maybe hasn't been divulged. And I have other military members ready to jump on board. I guess my biggest thing at this point is seeing where my VA is going to take me and see how that works out. You know, it's one of those where, you know, you put the word out there, you open the door, and if it continues to open, cool. But it's never totally shut, because no means next opportunity. And that next opportunity could be with them. You never know.
Yeah, so. You know what? I think that's a wonderful message to end the show on. No doesn't mean no, it means next opportunity.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So thank you for being an absolutely amazing guest. Please stay in touch and do reach out when you are ready to do another episode, and you're welcome back anytime.
All righty, sweetie. Thank you for your time, and you guys have a great day.
Yeah. See you later. Thanks for joining us. Bye.
Bye.